You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Let's move on and talk about our next topic, Nate, and let's talk about the T20 World Cup, which will be co-hosted with the US next year, and potentially with cricket's inclusion in the Olympics in Los Angeles in 2028. What sort of an impact will that make? Both of these tournaments will make on cricket in the US. But let's start with the T20 World Cup. It was a strategic sort of decision by the ICC to have the US be co-hosts with the West Indies. Obviously, close together in terms of where they are in the world, but also it was down to expanding the North American market for cricket. That's why they did it. And also to have cricket, the ICC's other ambition was to have cricket in the Olympics, trying to convince the organizing committee for LA 28 to have cricket in the Olympics. This is what could happen. So that's why they decided to bring the US in.
Sure. Makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And then you have the venues at Florida, Morrisville, Dallas, and New York, as we mentioned. They have to be approved by the ICC if they meet up international standards. They're shortlisted as venues. And obviously, it will be a different format in 2024 for the T20 World Cup. There will be 20 teams divided into 4 groups of 5 for the first round. And then with the top 2 teams from each group qualifying for the Super 8s. And then the Super 8 teams will be split into 2 groups, 4 each, with the top 2 in each group reaching the semifinals. So there's going to be more teams playing in the T20 World Cup than it was in Australia last year.
Sure.
And then you have the Olympics, and they're going to be in LA after Paris in 2028.
Yes.
And cricket hasn't been in the Olympics since 1900, and that was in Paris, and Great Britain won the gold medal. And France, which was a mixed team of different nationalities, played for France and won this silver. But cricket has been in the Commonwealth Games. Women's cricket in Birmingham last year, the Australian team just keeps winning everything, the women's team. They won gold. Yeah. And then it was back in 1998 as well for the men's. That was in Kuala Lumpur, which South Africa won the gold medal from Australia, who won silver in the final. And then New Zealand won bronze in that particular tournament. But they weren't classed as one-day internationals. They were list A matches because of the status that they were given at the time. Yeah. So it has been tried at major sporting events, games, or whatever, Commonwealth Games. So Nate, what sort of an impact will the T20 World Cup make? And potentially if the Olympics in LA, if that gets the green light, in terms of promoting cricket in the US, will it have a big impact to play? Will it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how well it goes. I mean, it really depends. It's when they decided to do this, I thought it was too soon. I thought, let's wait till Major League has a couple of years behind it before we start bidding on and winning World Cups. Let's give Major League a couple of years to get a couple more venues out. We just don't have enough venues. That's the biggest thing. And our biggest venue is Florida, which can hold, I think, about 15,000 if you put temporary
and that's the only ground that's hosted major international matches. The
Yes.
West Indies and India are going to be playing there.
Yeah.
In a few days, I think, for their T20 series.
Right. Yes, they are, and the ticket prices for that I think are like $150 or $160. So it's like Lords on a first day of a test.
Yes. Yeah. You got to make it affordable for people, but
yeah. So I think it can, especially if they can pull off this venue in New York. If they can pull off a big venue, I don't know how they're going to do it. I really don't. I'm really curious about this, but the venue in Dallas, like I said, it could be temporarily expanded, I believe, to like probably 12,000 seats or more, which would be cool. But that's not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to host India there. You'll have too many people. People will be trampling themselves to try to get in that place. So you're going to need like at least 30,000 for an India game. So it's
Or their games might be in the Caribbean because they've got
that's probably
stadiums.
why. Yeah, that's probably now talking to people who are familiar with both the Caribbean scene and the American scene. I talked to many people who said that the stadium in Dallas is a nicer stadium than anything in the Caribbean. Of course, it's
many
smaller.
of the stadiums are a bit dilapidated.
Yeah.
They were upgraded for the World Cup in 2007. That was the 50th of the World Cup.
And that was, that was 16 years ago. So
they are a little bit run down, a little bit.
Right. So hopefully they get rejuvenated. But if they can build that venue in New York, I think it can be a very, very good thing. That would be amazing. And then obviously, if they do that, then MLC will piggyback off of that and not just use the venue, and that will boost MLC immensely. So I'm cheering for it to work out, but I think it's a massive humongous it's a big task, and I don't know if it'll work or not, but if it does, if we can get it in the Olympics, that would be really, really cool, because I think by 2028 we'll have way more venues. We'll have at least 3-4 more venues, hopefully 6 more venues. But Morrisville is a beautiful place to watch cricket. Church Street Park is a beautiful place to watch cricket. It's the cricket game. The games there are always good games, almost always good games, and the fans are passionate, and it's just an amazing atmosphere. But it's hard to set things up there because it's a public park. So all the infrastructure you bring in is temporary, and you have to do this every time, and it's really a difficult thing to do for the people who do the broadcast. It's very difficult to do it. And
also expenses as well. It costs a lot of money for construction and all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And there's a city ordinance that the lights have to be off by 10 p.m. So they have to start games at 5 p.m. for that reason. And
with T20 internationals, they do go overtime.
Yeah,
so they do go quite 3 hours. So the overrate's quite poor. So you have to sort of sort of playing with that sort of curfew of switching the lights off.
Yeah, we do our minor league games. Our minor league games start at 6, but that's because they can be like, well, look, we're not going to do super overs. But like with Major League, you're going to do a super over, so you got to start it at 5. So
and in a T20 World Cup, potentially you could have a situation where you need a super over.
Might
need to go later. Also, rain, if the weather could play a part as well.
That's right. You want to have the flexibility to start the game later if you have to for any reason. And so that's why Morrisville is a challenge. Now, it's still, I think, it's a charming place to watch cricket. I saw people who came here. I talked to a guy who came here from England, watched all the games in Dallas, then went to Morrisville and watched all the games in Morrisville. And then afterwards he told me, he said, you know what? I think if I had to choose one venue to watch the whole thing at, he was happy there were 2 because of the variety. But he said if he had to choose one, he would have chosen Morrisville because it's more intimate. And but the players, I think, liked Dallas or liked Grand Prairie a little bit more because the lights are better quality. That's a bigger thing. There's a couple of, and also they don't have to get changed in tents. They have a proper changing rooms. So that's a big thing. So I think it could make a big impact. I think it really could make a big impact on the more because it will fill the gap that Major League's leaving by Major League being even if it doubles its season to 10 games per team for the regular season, that's still way too short for an American sports league. So if you have that happening and you have the World Cup happening in the same summer, that will be really, really good for cricket in the USA because it'll keep it in the national eye a lot longer. Double it.
It will. And it's a World Cup. So
it's a World Cup.
You're on the world stage, and the USA don't have to qualify because they're already automatic.
We're already in it. We're in. Yes.
So that will give an incentive for people from the US to go watch the team because you're already in the World Cup.
Yep.
And you just you don't have big expectations on the team, but if they can do well, then it's promising. With the Olympics, imagine, that will because people in the US, the Olympic team of the US is pretty strong for many years, as we know.
Sure.
And
especially
people in the US will, support any sport they play in the Olympics.
Sure.
So imagine that
the whole
if
world
the US
does.
are in, you get to win a gold medal, that's the incentive. So it's going to be interesting. But the next games after LA will be in Brisbane in Australia. So definitely cricket will get the green light here, I think, because it's in Australia.
I think
but
so
with the
too.
US, it's a bit of a challenge. So it's up to the organising committee and it's up to the ICC to approve the venues for international standard.
Right.
So we'll have to wait and see on that. But promising, and it will really do wonders for cricket in the US. An associate nation, you don't see many of those hosting a World Cup. It's usually full member.
No, you don't.
So they're privileged. They're probably the only team. Well, I say that, but I don't think they'll be the only team because I think Namibia are going to be co-hosting the next World Cup with South Africa.
That would be really cool. That
2027.
That would be great. Go ahead and put the associate games in a place like Namibia. Go ahead and put the associate games here in the USA, like USA versus Netherlands. Play that one at Church Street Park, something like that. You know what I mean? In the World Cup,
and I think it will come down to how they organize the fixture as well, because both cricket boards will have to look at that and broadcasting and say, right, okay, do we want India and Pakistan, for example? Do we want to really play that in the US, or do we want to play it at a stadium in the Caribbean with more capacity? Because they bring in big crowds.
Yeah, so, it would. Yeah,
you get all these things.
Lots of considerations.
Lots of considerations to make there. But we shall wait and see on that. Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed hearing Nate and I discuss the ICC T20 World Cup for 2024 and Los Angeles Olympics 2028 potential impact on cricket in the USA. Make sure you check out Emerging Cricket and Big Innings and support Nate in the good work he is doing in promoting cricket in the USA. Links to those are in the description of this episode.